Okay, this morning I'm letting the soldering iron heat up. Sorry for the jiggling. Thought I'd talk about a couple other things real quickly. I'm preparing to put the turret board in today, so I've got a few little things to take care of, and there's a couple things I wanted to point out. If you'll notice right here and here, those are Kep's nuts. Kep's nuts have the tooth washer that's fastened to them. Is bonded to it internally. They're very good. They keep your bolts pretty well tight. What that Kep's nut is meant to do is the teeth are meant to bite into the surface when you tighten them up. It does two things. It bonds this to this particular surface, and it's to a degree it's meant to keep this from loosening up. I have had these loosen up over shipping before, and now I put Loctite on the screws before I screw the Kep's nuts on, and they pretty much don't ever come loose. The second thing is on all the transformers, because they're going to be, specifically the output transformer, here's the 4 volts for it, they're going to be a bugger to get to after the fact, so I use the nylon insert nuts on those, because if you've ever owned a Harley like I did back in the 70s, you find out before long everything on that sumbitch rattles loose if you don't use these style nuts on there. Same thing can happen, and you don't want to pull the board out just because the nut came loose again. You can't get to it. You put these on, you don't really need to Loctite with those, and they're on, they're secure. So today I'm going to take this pot up here. I don't have it tight yet. In here it's loose. I'll put some, that is the bias pot. I'll put some Loctite on the threads of it. I put it over in this location because I ran out of real estate over here, because the board comes clear over to the edge of these two screws right here, and on the top side the choke is up here in the way, and the edge of the transformer comes over here. There wasn't really adequate space to put that pot over here where it normally would, so I put it over here, which is no big deal. You have to consider this is a Tweed style chassis, and on the, sorry, I got my finger in the way. On the Tweed style chassis, when this is mounted in a combo cabinet, there's going to be a top panel right here and a bottom panel below the speaker, and on this Tweed style, this chassis is going to be fastened to the top of the cabinet right here in my slotted hole with these wings that I put on. I told you guys about, to give myself a little bit extra space so I'm not in the radius of the cabinet curve. So this will be affixed permanently in the cabinet. If I pull that rear combo cabinet rear panel back off, there's complete access to the amplifier itself, so you can easily fire the amp up, be able to get into here to adjust your bias on it, and have the whole thing completely running and energized if there's anything that you need to check out on the amp. On most of the Marshall combos, they'll have 4 screws. The chassis is going to be wider than this. It's usually 6.25 inches wide. You have 4 screws, and those 4 screws mount to the rear panel. You remove the rear panel, and the chassis comes with it. So it's easy to pull the chassis, but on this one, the chassis stays in the cabinet, so that allows for facilitation to be able to get in here to check any of the components you want to check. I did mount right, get my pointer, dropped it. Right here, I did mount my 1.5K grid resistor across pin 1 and pin 5, because pin 1 is effectively a dummy load, and As River Rat was very nice to remind everybody, back in the old days, pin 1 was grounded because that was the metal shield on these early 6v6s. That way you didn't get shocked. But for all intents and purposes, it's a dummy. Same with pin 6 is a dummy. That allows you to go from here over to here to mount your screen resistor, your 470Rs, and you tap, bring your wire right here on pin 6, feeds through that, goes to pin 4. Sorry for all the jiggling. My shoulders give me a hard time today. I went ahead and I don't know what the in phase is going to be for the output transformers, so I cut them both leads, the blue and the brown, long enough to go to pin 3 on this socket because that's the farthest away socket. If it howls upon startup, all I got to do is unsolder this, swap the 2 leads back and forth, and put it back in phase, and I'm good to go. That's a consideration you always want to do, is leave both leads on the output transformer secondary long enough to reach either one of the power tubes in case it's out of phase. Today also I'm going to come up to this area up here. My skinny black and red right there is going to the pilot light. I'll go ahead and get that soldered in. I'll solder the wires in for the bias pod itself. I'll solder the wires off the fuse. I'm not going to put the right here my finger is right here, the power cord in yet, because it's 12-foot power cord, and then the damn thing will be in my way the whole time working on the amp. I can put it in at the very last minute and worry about that at that point in time. I'll also put the standby switch in, which goes up right, yeah, where that yellow wire is going through, right there. That's where the standby switch goes in. It just clears. I'll mount all the pots. I'll run all the B plus wires through these 2 particular holes here and here to where they go, because these holes go up into the cake pan on the top side. I'll mount my output jacks right here. Let me show you from the top side. I'll mount my output jacks because they're going to be very close to the turret board itself. I had to order some shielded wire because Valvestorm has been out for a couple of weeks. I kept waiting for them to restock, but they haven't yet. So I've got some military spec RG-174 coming out of California. Should be here Monday, maybe today, to solder to the back of these 2 right here and these 2 right here. This again is going to be the brown face channel with volume and tone, and this channel here is going to be my black face. My black face channel will have a master volume. That will be along this row of control pots, but it actually is a master volume for the entire amp. It's going to be post-phase inverter is the style I was going to put in on this. Rob Robinette has a site that's very useful and handy for a lot of different mods that he has worked on for Fender amps. And I'm going to go with the master volume and a post-phase inverter. The reverb driver on the backside right here, I've already got the wires done. The only thing I've got left is this red wire here, which will go to a turret for B+, and that B+ will be picked up. I'll have a B+ coming through the board right here, and that'll go up to the turret also. That will fire up that reverb driver transformer that's on the top side up here, and then that fires those up. These 2 jacks here are going to be for the combination foot switch, vibrato, and reverb. These 2 here I'm going to use Cliff style output jacks. I think it's going to give a little bit better grip than the Fender style, and because the cords are going to be hanging out the bottom like this to go to the speakers, and It just makes it, it's my personal belief, they grab a little bit tighter than a Fender style output jack. So that's what I'm going to put on. These will go in later. I'm going to keep this wire, I'll push this over this way, square it up a little bit. I'll keep this wire like this so I can shove my turret board down like this and in. But I'll do these later after I do the other connections, because if I put these in place, then I can't get to these to solder these very well. These two here, and where the hell's the other one? Oh, stupid. Here, sorry. Those two there are the send and return on the reverb tank. So that's kind of what I got planned for working on this morning. I did modify my cradle a little bit to make this doesn't sit down flush. Normally back of the chassis, a deeper chassis, and the chassis sits all the way down here up against the stop, and then it rests up against there and I don't have to worry about it. This won't go down because of these wings. I put the wings on. These are put on with Loctite, by the way, also, and Kip's nuts. So I just added a screw at the top so this chassis can't get away from me. And that's about it. That's what I'm going to work on today. Get all those small, tidy jobs done. Do the cake pan up on top with the caps. I'll take pictures of those when I do that. And the B plus that comes through these two holes here. And then I'll stuff the turret board in place. Got one small modification on the turret board, because typically in the past, if this was a pure tweed style, or if this was a pure blackface style, what you would have is this side here would be the normal channel, this side here would be the vibrato channel. In Fender only, the vibrato is for the entire amp because it goes through the bias circuit itself. The reverb would only have been on this vibrato channel. I'm pretty sure the customer would like to, on his brown face side, would like to have the reverb option here also. So I was going to put a switch right in here to toggle between the two, but that would have meant that you could only run this channel, period. If you're running in reverb, you'd have to flip the switch to put it back into normal operation, where you could plug into this, and this would be a non-reverb. This would be a reverb side. But after looking at the Rob Robinette site, there's a way I can move a couple of mixing resistors on the turret board and make it to where they're both active at all points in time. And it also makes it to where, if the customer wants to, he could channel jump between here and here to give these two, to give a slightly fatter tone to the amp itself. But that will allow this brown face side to have reverb also, in addition to the vibrato. This hole here for this switch is for, there is no mid pot on a black face. It has a fixed value. I'm going to give 3 position, give 3 values on this. Stock value is 6.8K, 6800, and I'll probably go 6.8, 10K, and probably somewhere closer to 14K or 16K, something like that. And then feedback is usually, there is no presence on those also. Feedback is usually a fixed value, and I'll put a 3 position value in here like I did on the Majestic. No, take that back. On John V, on his Deluxe that I built for him, and the Pro Deluxe that I built for myself, give you a 3 position switch, and you can hear it. There's a good range between the 3 right there. Is it as fine-tuned as a presence? No, not exactly, but Fender didn't use a presence on these particular circuits. They did in the later models, and I think in the late silver face, but I didn't in the black face. So there you have it. That's about it.